Hey everybody, it's Tommy Canale and welcome to Before the Lights podcast. The show to find out how those in sports, music, and entertainment made their mark. Today, she is the editor of 3 online magazines, a writer for many publications such as Access, Yahoo, Spin, and Online Entertainment. A songwriter, producer, author of children's books. She's a poet and the owner of Inside the Song Promotions. A PR specialist. Her clients include Raydio, Zebra, Molly Hatchet, Ambrosia, Rickey Medlocke of Leonard Skinner, and Little River Band. Please welcome to the show, Donna Nolan Wilson. Donna, welcome to Before the Lights.
Thank you for having me.
Before we get going, I want to do a special shout out to Kelly Burgin, the newest member of the BTL crew. If you'd like to join the members area, go to beforethelightspod.com/support. That's beforethelightspod.com/support. We'll get you some bonus content, the extra 5 of all the interviews we do, and a couple rewards as well. So go there and check it out. Donna, to start with you, who is Donna as a high school student?
Oh, as a high school student, that's scary. That's very scary. Well, I didn't want to be in high school.
Okay.
I didn't want to be there, so I doubled up and I graduated early. As a high school student, though, I can tell you that I loved to type, and my favorite class was English. Go figure.
Gotcha. All right, so it makes sense. And then in 1986, you were a writer for the Long Island Veterans Time. Being that you started out and you're saying that you like to type and English was your favorite subject, what did this job teach you that maybe you're still using today?
Well, compassion for veterans would be the number one thing that it taught me. I met a lot of vets who felt lost and underappreciated or not appreciated at all. So I guess just compassion. And as a songwriter, I've written several songs that support veterans. So I've carried that throughout my life. Interviewing people, being compassionate when you interview people. You know, I mean, people, you can be hard hitting, but you can also be compassionate. You know, you should show compassion to people, no matter who you're interviewing. Agree
100%. You completed New York real estate school, and then for 16 years, you were a paralegal at Stephen Kuzma in Long Island that dealt in real property law. How does somebody that has the background of real estate and paralegal get into the music business?
Okay, I can't believe you picked up Steve Kuzma. There was many more attorneys. He was my second to last attorney's office that I actually worked in. Well, one of the things that it taught me was contract law. So when I made my metamorphosis into the entertainment business, I was able to take, you know, how to create a contract with me. And so I did that. Real property law, you know, that, I mean, as far as real estate, that doesn't go into, well, I can't really say that because one thing you don't know is that I recently discovered that here in Tennessee, where I live, if you're a notary public, you can do closings. So during this pandemic, or actually toward the end of the pandemic, I refinanced my house, and a man came to my house to do my closing, and he was terrible. He was just terrible. And so I made a few phone calls after he left because I said, these people need help. If this is what they're sending the people's, because he said to me, all you have to do is be a notary to do closings in Tennessee. And I'm like, you're kidding me. So I became a notary and started doing, you know, and I did my first closing on October 30th or 31st, but the people were not wearing masks. And that frightened me. So I said, you know, because I'm sitting there masked up. And I just said to myself, it's not this, I'm going to wait until the pandemic slows down a little bit. So yeah, let's add that to my latest
list.
I'm always doing something though, and I have to be busy. I have to always be busy.
How did you get or start your break into the entertainment music business?
Had my first song published in 1992. song called In My Dreams. I was still living on Long Island at the time, but somebody breaking into the music business, a newcomer in Nashville, recorded it. And I said, I never had a feeling like that before, to have something that I wrote, be turned into a song. So I thought that was great. How did I do that? And then when I ended up I started co-writing online with different people.
Okay.
And that's how I met my husband. And we wrote together for about 2 years. And we kind of thought something was happening, online for the first year. But then from year 1 to 2, we knew something was happening, but he was up in Michigan and I was on Long Island. So you have to wait to meet each other. And we finally did, with that big build up. Oh no, what if we are face to face and decide we don't like each other? But that didn't happen. We met in January of 1998 and we were married on July 10th of 1998.
Wow.
And we're still married.
That's awesome.
And he is my co-writer. Anyhow, he moved to New York for about a year and a half. We left New York, we wanted to go to Tennessee, but we did not know anybody. And I had a sister living in Beaufort, Georgia. So we ended up moving to Georgia first. And then we started commuting back and forth. And during that time, and as luck would have it, because this is how things work in people's lives, we had just contracted to have a house built in a place called Winder, Georgia. And it's kind of in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And it's beautiful, beautiful location. And it was no sooner, it was probably a week after we were in contract, that I got a call from Nashville that the Broken Spoke Songwriters Cafe wanted me to produce a internet show from the Broken Spoke. So that was my very first foray into being any kind of a producer. So there was a company called Live on the Net, and they were out of Alabama. They came down to the Broken Spoke, they hooked up this camera, and every night we went live for 1 hour. So I would actually monitor the show. I'd watch my own show every night, sitting in Winder, Georgia, and then on weekends I would go, head up to Nashville and have my production meetings with my songwriters hosts. From there, we ended up opening up our own cafe called Inside the Songs, Songwriters Cafe and Guitar Store in Winder, Georgia. And we were about a year and a half old when 911 hit. And I don't know if you remember back then, but everything shut down.
Yep.
Much like the pandemic, everything shut down. And we had to decide, do we want to get a business loan? Because we were literally paying the store's rent. Nobody was coming out. And it was, it was a brick and mortar place. This was a place people would come, and there's even a little commercial on YouTube for it, where you can see what it looked like and everything. And we made the decision to not throw good money after bad. We didn't know when this thing was going to be over. And we just paid off basically the lease and closed it down. And that was painful. It was very painful to do that, but we had to do what we had to do to survive. And then from there, I had booked so many songwriters in, and songwriters started getting in touch with me saying, you're so good at all this booking stuff and contract stuff. Would you book me? Would you represent me? Would you? And so that's where Inside the Song and its promotions comes from. Started in the year 2000, and it's just been going since then. I've had that website, insidethesong.com, since the year 2000.
Love it. Being that we're talking about Songwriter, you have a songwriting service called Your Song. And for anybody out there, can you talk about that?
Wow, I can't believe you found Your Song. You really do your research.
Thank you.
So I have a really good friend named Megan, and she says to me, I don't know why you don't do something with these songs. And she had a daughter getting married, and she said, I would love to have, she's a single mom, and she said, I would love to have a song written for my daughter's wedding, because I'm going to dance the first dance with her. So we wrote the song, and then, so from there it was like, all right, so let's do this. Now that's fledgling, that's brand new. It's her daughter only just got married this past summer. So, and I haven't done a lot of promotions on it, but that's the whole idea behind it. If somebody has something special happening in their lives and they would like a song to memorialize it, they can go to Inside the Song. It's got its own page, Your Song, and they can contact me and we will write a song for any special occasion they want to be memorialized.
Go to the show notes, people. I'm going to put a link right to your song, and you can get in touch with Donna and have a song written for your special occasion. We talked about it's been 21 years now for Inside the Song Promotions. I want to start here with it. The 4 Ps: public relations, promotions, publicity. I love the last P of possibilities. It's just on what you can really do with this company.
Yeah, well, because part of the magic of promotions or publicity is either taking something that isn't much and making it something spectacular, or there is possibilities. One thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. And it's just a never ending, and that happens all the time. And it almost comes in waves. And I have a very good friend who I also do some PR for. Her name is Hallie Castor-Jane, and she's a magnificent, brilliant woman. And so the other day we were talking about this and that for something that she's written, turning it into a screenplay. And, you know, who do we know? Who do we know to do this and do that? And the next thing I know, I get something in my DM from somebody else who is actually in movie production. And it's like, whoa. And that's how it happens. It's boom, 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 and contacts and just networking. And it's incredible how that works. And it's a lot of fun and it's exciting. And especially when it hits like that.
Yes.
It's like, was somebody listening?
Right. You know, the possibilities are endless in any business. That's why I really love seeing that word possibilities in your 4 Ps, because you don't really see it in people's mission statements or things that they're trying to do with their company, but you just put it out there, possibilities, and it kind of opens your eyes going, well, that's endless. Maybe what I'm doing or somebody else doing fits into inside the song promotion. So I love that.
That's right. I mean, you know, we specialize in singer-songwriters and music, but I do books. I'm involved with CAF, which is Creative Arts Love Festival. I don't know if you picked up on that in any of your wanderings, but that brings in people of the creative arts, and you know, you can be work with acrylic paints or wood carvings or anything, you know, anything that's artistic. You can have a booth and set up, you know, whatever you do at Creative Arts Love Festival. Unfortunately, we started that a couple of years ago, and then the pandemic hit, you know, and people, so we kind of went to online with that for a little while, and we're looking to get back into doing it, you know, at locations. And I actually want to bring it to Tennessee. So we were doing it in Florida. I want to do 1 year in Tennessee, next year, Florida, and then do them off season. So like when it's nice here, and then when it's nice there, you know what I mean? That type of thing. So yeah, I'm involved in Creative Arts Love Festival. We call it CAF for short, you know, and we love that. We love that.
What are the number of clients then that you represent in everything you're doing?
You know, it varies because I represent different people at different times. Like I have a client who is releasing a single on December 6th. So that's going to take up a bunch of time for the next, you know, 2 weeks to get her ready to take that single off. I just had my husband remix one of his songs. It's a song called The Ghost of Christmas Past. It's actually the song that I fell in love with him because of. And so it's an old song, but I told him I want you to remix it, remaster it, and I want to release it as a single. So right now it's getting ready to be distributed worldwide. So we have that, you know, so as soon as that is released, as soon as it's available, it's supposed to be available December 1st if everything falls into place. And then we'll be running with The Ghost of Christmas Past. So it can be at any given time. I can have any artist who's getting ready to release something or do something, you know, like today. I can check my phone if I knew where my phone was right now and see that, you know, I'm trying to get approval on a Black Friday sale that will run through Sunday. And that's for Wayne Nelson of Little River Band. He has this really cool podcast that he did. It's like a 10 video series that he did with his best friend, and it documents his entire musical life up until 2020. And I mean, everything. I'm talking about everything. And it's incredible. And So it's like, okay, so, we should probably run a Black Friday sale on it and have it extend till Sunday. So I'm waiting for he just needs to say, yeah, run with it, and I'll get that from a lot of them. I'll come up with an idea, like, let's do this and shoot a text or whatever, run with it. And then I run, I'm off. And that's kind of how it works. At any given time, it can vary, so some get more attention than Little River Band gets a lot of my attention. They're probably one of the hardest touring bands in this country. They tour about 11 months a year without fail when there's not a pandemic. They were probably one of the first bands back after the pandemic, and using all of the common sense masks and everything else, and they have a full calendar already for 2022.
How do you find artists to sign or represent? Do they contact you? Is it a combination of you contacting them, networking? How does all that happen?
Networking mostly. I have criteria. It's kind of like I have to really believe in you. If you're not like a national name, I have to really believe in you to work with you, because it's time consuming. And if you're taking time away from one, somebody, and I can't do that. So it's kind of like I have to really, really believe in you. I get contacted all the time, and some people, if there's something that triggers me to want to look, then I'll look. But I'd say referrals, networking, it comes to me through a backdoor type of thing.
For our listeners, if you would speak regarding all that goes into promoting like Little River Band or somebody in your client list for tour, because this has to be very involved. Can you explain to our listeners what all is involved in that?
Right. So, a date is contracted and they're heading out and they're, going to be in this town, this city, this country, whatever the situation is. One of the things I specialize in is tour media. So like if they're going to Atlanta, then I'm going to set them up with interviews for local radio stations or print media to promote the show. And then, of course, there's all the online things. And I've recently discovered every day things change online. So, for instance, a client who I did a single for 2 years ago, the one I'm releasing the single for December 6th, she said, do you still need from me what you needed last time? And I said, oh, no, it's all different. It's all changed. And it's an education. It's an education that never stops. Every year, things change. And we have curators now, with listening to music. That's like new. That we didn't have curators and playlists. You got to get on this playlist if you want to be, this person's got 1 million listeners. You got to get on this playlist. And it's people that, and you hear this all the time. What are they called? I can't remember the name now. People that, like on TikTok, people that other people watch.
Oh, like the online creators?
Yeah, well, not just the creators. It's who people are looking at for the next style, the next best thing, that type of thing. Everything changes every year, so every year I have to change. I have to change with the times. Mm-hmm. And I know that's cliche.
But it's true.
It's true.
Yes. Yeah.
And that involves taking, I'll get offers all the time to do this and do that for, bands in town, all of the different platforms, Spotify, they will all say, Zoom even, hey, there's a course. I'm sure you see, there's a course you can, so you end up taking these courses to see what better way you can help your clients or whatever your business is. And it's like, it's never ending. So it's a ongoing education. And by the way, in the field of law, it's the same thing. When you're an attorney, you have to update yourself and the changes as well. So we used to do a lot of Social Security disability law in one of the law firms. And I literally used to go like every 2-3 months to they had these little conferences and you would sit down. They were like training courses. And you would sit down with other attorneys and they would show you what you needed to know now. So every business, I think it's ongoing education, always.
On top of that, because this just brought a question to my mind, what are the struggles then of being a music promoter, producer you encounter all the time?
The music promoters, it's kind of like I do promotions, but I'm not a promoter. And I know that sounds, the word that I know for promoters are people who buy shows.
Okay.
And so, in my line of business, a promoter is somebody who's bought the show. Okay. And I'll work with that promoter and I'll work with that promoter's marketing team. And that's another whole aspect of this. I work with a different team on every single show. And, when you're doing, Little River Band does anywhere between 80 to 100 shows a year. And I have a different marketing team with every one of those shows.
Unbelievable. I don't know how you keep it straight.
You can get busy. You can get so busy.
I'll bet.
And then you always got the glitches happening too. So say a website's supposed to help service some of this stuff, but the website just doesn't cooperate. And no matter how many times, people try to repair it, it doesn't. They come to me, I service them. Somebody needs something for a show, they're going to get it from me, and they're going to get it big. So I've started, and one thing that I've learned recently, and especially with Facebook, and I don't know if you do promotions on Facebook, but Facebook
I do.
is no longer manual friendly. They want you to pay for everything.
Mm-hmm. Everything.
Everything. I mean, everything. It's ridiculous. So you have to find your little ways around, because it'll cost you a fortune if you have to lay that out. And I used to always do all manual promotions. And now it's like they want you to pay. So I've discovered little tricks of what, and you have to play with this and see what gets you the most looks, the most likes, the most shares, so there's all these little things to do. And, I have to watch that all the time. And then you have your artists come to you, and there's so many artists out there that don't know that they have absolute control over their YouTube page. Every time you have a song that gets distributed through iTunes, Apple, CD Baby, whatever the situation is, whoever your distributor is, there is an automatic or an instant page created on YouTube for that product. And what artists don't know is they have every right to claim that, every right to just go and claim it. And they just don't know it. They also have every right to claim their Spotify page, and they don't know it. And, so like, I'm giving away some free advice.
Yeah,
right
you
now.
are. Some golden nuggets, people.
It is. Because what people, and they'll say, really? How do I, but you see, they don't know how to do it. And I know how to do it. So, free, and they'll have to do some investigation there themselves to figure it out. But right. You know what? If you're a smart cookie, you can figure it out and you can get it done for yourself. But there's so much that people don't know that they're entitled to, because it's their brand, it's their name, it's their product. It's not Spotify's, it's not YouTube's, It's theirs.
It's their own brand development.
Yes. I do. Yeah, I do that too. I'm speaking to somebody today who is very much like me. She's got her hands in a bunch of different things. And she said, what do you think? And my advice was, we need to conglomerate you. You need to be a conglomerate, and we need to brand you as and then every other little thing you do is a subsidiary of that. Because in order do you know how expensive it would be to take everything that she does and promote that one at a time, rather than have it under one brand?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Like Coca-Cola sells soda, but they've got all different kinds under there. It's not just Coca-Cola. Right. You know what I mean? There's other things. There's Sprite too, right?
Yes.
Coke is, cherry Coke. There's other things in there, so it has to be under the one big mantra, basically,
Tell us about Backstage Pass, behind the scenes, latest and breaking news in music, TV, and more.
Okay, so Backstage Pass news surprised me this year. She's actually been around a while, and she just never did very well. And I didn't understand why. And I put her into a different platform, and she took off. She took off like a little jet plane. I was like, Go, you go, girl. I think, it's kind of like you think of them as like, I don't know. I name my cars, so I guess I put sexes on them and I give them names, and she's really taken off, and she's done really well these past couple of months. She, specializes, of course, it's all entertainment, so it's anything that has to do with the entertainment world. That's part of what she does. I don't know how much more you want me to say about her other than my goals for Backstage Pass News is to be really prestigious. I want only top-notch real news, number one. There's no what people call fake news. I mean, this is all, real stuff. There's nothing, no one's ever going to go there and say, oh, that can't be true. It's not going to be the Inquirer or even TMZ. It's not going to be sleazy. It's never going to be sleazy. I don't do sleaze.
I enjoy it. It's a good page. I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes as well. There's going to be a bunch of links, people, so get to the show notes. In 2000, you became an author with your first book and now have children's books. The Traveling Jalapenos, Cousins Rancho, Emilio, and Hector Grande. Where did this idea come from, and why jalapenos?
Grandchildren. I have grandchildren. Okay, so we would do we would do Taco Tuesdays like on Sundays.
Okay.
And so we were not living far from each other, but it was kind of like we would rotate. 1 week would be in one house and the other week would be in the other house. And at some point, I bought a jar of jalapeno peppers. So these jalapeno peppers started traveling back and forth because no one, how many people buy a jar of jalapeno peppers? I mean, it's not something that I don't believe everybody has on their weekly shopping list. And they traveled back and forth. And, my imagination is always going. Always. When I was a child, I used to daydream out the classroom window and wish I was somewhere else. And so the grandkids were gathered around, and, we were joking, and I was talking about the traveling jalapenos. And I said, these poor little things, and they don't want to be eaten. That they don't want to be eaten. And the kids were like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, what wants to be eaten? Nothing wants to be eaten. They're vegetables. They're alive. They were living. So that's how it was born. It was, and they do good. They travel around the country. They have their own CD. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
And it's all life lessons for children. They're probably today, I probably get, and I haven't really done a lot of that with them because I'm afraid of getting attacked for being politically incorrect because they're the traveling jalapeno. I mean, Dr. Seuss got nailed. What are they going to do to my traveling jalapenos? So that's funny. But yeah, no, they're near and dear to my heart because of how they came about. They were created with love. They truly were. And also, I have a really great friend. His name is Lee Rasconnay. He is a songwriter host in Nashville. Very first person I ever met in Tennessee when I came to Nashville back in like 1996. I actually knew Lee before I knew my husband. And it's kind of modeled after him. He's half Mexican and half French, and I love him to pieces. And he's everybody in Nashville knows him and loves him. And also, I want to do a shout out to Debbie Champion too, who is also, she's like the queen of songwriter hosts, and Lee is like the king of songwriter hosts. They host these songwriter shows where all of the hit songs are born in Nashville, all of them.
Love it.
And we sat and heard these songs before they were pitched to publishing, or to artists. And all the songwriters know each other, and we're one big happy family. We really truly love each other and support each other when there's trouble.
Great. Outside of the traveling jalapenos, there's Tilly the tomato, but I want to touch on Firefly Christmas. If you would talk to my listeners about what this book is about.
Okay, so she was at the Firefly. Her name is Danny, and I kind of dubbed her after my daughter Danielle. And she was actually written a long time ago. That story was written originally back in like 1999, but I kind of updated it. and named, instead of one little girl in the story, I made their two little granddaughters, which are my two granddaughters who live in Australia, Ashley and Holly. And so it was kind of modeled after them, although they have a very much alive father. The dad in this story, the mom was a single mom, so I kind of just left him gone. But my daughter is happily married to a nice Australian man, and they live in Australia. So, but for years, I will tell you, for years, one night when I was in Nashville, I sat down with somebody and described the story to this person, and she kind of drew like a firefly for me. And I took this little drawing and I had it in my wallet for years, 20 years. And then like last Christmas, I said, I should really do something with this thing because, so I literally went online. I found an illustrator. I started working with an illustrator. And before I knew it, she was born. Have you seen the cover of that?
I did.
Isn't it pretty?
It's very pretty.
Right. So the illustrator actually created the firefly,
okay.
And then I did the rest of the cover. So I do graphics as well.
Man.
Yes.
Where can listeners purchase these books, Donna?
So either Amazon or if they want it autographed at my website at nolanwilson.com.
And I'll put a link to that as well. When I was doing some research on the children's book, I came across the autism song. Fantastic idea. Does this get a lot of publicity? Because if not, it's got to get out there. This is a really good and a great song.
It does and it doesn't. You know what happens when you promote everybody else?
You don't promote yourself.
Right. You don't. And, it's bad. It's bad that you don't do that, and you just don't. So I kind of create these things. A lot of the things that I've created have been more legacy, like for my children and grandchildren type of thing.
Okay.
To have something to hold on to. I've never created. Look, would I not like to get a hit song? Well, of course, everybody wants a hit song, but ultimately we learned a long time ago, you either write for yourself or you shouldn't write at all. Because if you're writing for the goal to just become famous, rich and famous, then you probably shouldn't be doing it because it's not the right motivation behind doing it. So, we have two songs, Duty Called, and I don't know if you came across Duty Called.
I don't know if I did.
Yeah, now that song, it's a Vietnam veterans tribute song, and that song was our biggest, and I had a temper tantrum, and I should have never done this, but at one point it was at almost 1 million listens. And we're monetized on YouTube, and they decided that they were not going to pay out for any songs that had to do with war. Oh, I'm not kidding. And I was like,
unbelievable.
Yeah. And I was like, well, then you don't get the song. And I pulled it down and I regretted it instantly. So I put it back on YouTube, and then I was like, but all of the plays are gone. All of the plays are gone. And I mean, that song it did really well when it was first up on YouTube. And, I think as YouTube grew and there was more and more content, then there was more and more competition for that type of song. So it gets less listens now. But that song, and then we have a song, Be the Change, it was actually inspired from Sandy Hook.
Okay.
And, that nightmare. Mm-hmm. And I love Be the Change. So those are two that very, special songs to me. Plus Duty Called was a real story song. So we co-wrote that. Me and my husband co-wrote that with a woman named Bobby Sharp. And it was about a 18-year-old that she knew named Bobby who went to Vietnam and did not come home. So it's a true story song. And then Bobby Sharp passed away. What was really spooky here is he died a year and a day after he was in Vietnam, and then she died a year and a day after the song was released.
Oh.
It was like spooky stuff.
Yeah.
True story song. Most of our stuff is true story.
Is that including your new music coming out as well?
Yeah, there's usually something, behind what was written. We have an album called Love Story, and the song Love Story is actually about my grandparents.
So you're writing more from your heart and what you're feeling than just writing songs.
Right. Yeah, they come from a place a place of love or a place of pain, whatever the situation is, we have a song called The Present. My sister was battling cancer for a long time. And I wrote that song during her battle. And it was about, that every day is a gift. That's why we call it The Present. And she loved the song. She did hear it. She got to hear it before she passed away.
How do you find time to do everything that you have on your plate and in your resume? How do you find time in a day?
Everybody asks me that all the time. I don't know. I just do. I work. I work all the time. I mean, I just work nonstop, but I've always been driven, so it's kind of like if I'm not busy writing something, like I'll watch TV and I'll be writing while I'm doing that. And I crochet too. Like I'm always doing something. And I sleep about 6 hours a night. I get about 6 hours sleep and I seem to do okay on 6 hours.
This may be difficult to answer, but do you have a biggest accomplishment that you've already done?
No, it's like the next one.
It's always on to the next project.
Yeah, it's always like the next one. I mean, sometimes I think that I've reached it, like this is good. This is good enough or whatever. And then I'm like, no, I'm always on to the next thing. So no, I don't have the biggest yet. Well, I shouldn't say that. My children and my grandchildren, because it takes a village, and they're the thing I'm the most proud of.
With everything that you have going, there has to be peaks and valleys, times you've been up, times you've gone down. And when the roller coaster hits what you think is the bottom, how do you find the strength to rise back up time and time again?
That's a really tough question. I don't know if you saw in your research that my husband is a cancer survivor and a 2-time stroke survivor.
And I'm a cancer survivor as well. So
I did not know that. So, those were some very low, scary, frightening times. And you just hold on. You truly have to hold on. Music. I will tell you that music pulls me through every single time. I can, he was in St. Thomas West in Nashville, and I'm like an hour and 20 minutes outside of Nashville. So I'd have to do that drive in and that drive back. And some of the songs that I would hear were the ones that got me through. It was like, and it was amazing because that same song, when I was feeling low, that same song would come on, like on the trip there or the trip back. And I would be like, how does it know? How does it know I need to hear this right now? And so I would say music pulls me out of it. I'd like to say God, because I would say, oh, please, no more, like just not, I can't, no more, and then I would be given these little, like almost like little gifts. There was a low moment, and she'll never hear this, but I'm going to tell the story anyhow. I was in a grocery store, and this is before the pandemic.
Okay.
And he was in the hospital. He had just had some emergency. He had been life flighted, airlifted by helicopter to save his leg. He'd gotten a blood clot in his leg and his life. And I was in this, I'd come home after being 2 days in the hospital with him. And I went down to the grocery store because I had no food in the house. And I was like ready to lose it. And the next thing I know, I hear this little woman. Now here I am in, Tennessee, and I hear this woman with a New York accent. And I was like instantly drawn to her because I'm from Long Island, and it turned out her name is Jan. And she smiled at me and we just started talking. We took the conversation from the grocery store out into the parking lot. And I just told her like everything that was going on. And she's like, we have to have lunch. And we did lunch, and we did lunch again. And she ended up moving to Florida, and I miss her so bad. But we're talking about, she's like 80.
Doesn't matter. Age doesn't matter.
And she was like an angel. And I told her that. God gave me an angel right when I needed one the most, because I really felt like I was going to lose it that day in the grocery store. It was almost like I was standing there. It was almost like the store was spinning. Like when you say, I can't. And then I just heard this New York accent, and I was like, somebody from home type of thing. Because you do, in moments like that, you miss family, you miss home, because we have, like I said, we've got kids. We're not our first spouses. So we have kids. We got them in Arizona, we got them in Illinois, we got them in Pennsylvania, we got them in Australia, and grandkids, so they're just out there. But we don't have any relatives here. I have a sister in Georgia, a mother in Florida. The rest of my relatives are on Long Island. We're all scattered. Yesterday we did a Zoom Thanksgiving.
You got everybody together.
Right. So, when you're going through these things, you just, what they say about the kindness of strangers. It's true, so music and that woman, Jan, got me through some of those hard times.
Donna, you have so much on your plate. I want to say thank you for stepping away from your life and everyday craziness to come on my show and talk about your journey and be on my show. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. Like I said, this was different. And I didn't know what to tell you to focus on. It's kind of like, what do we focus on? But it's just who I am. It's all who I am. So
that's what we want to focus on. I'm sure our listeners got a great insight to what it's like to be a music producer and an author and everything else you have going on in life outside of that. So I appreciate your candidness and talking openly.
Well, thank you for having me.
If you would, do me a favor, follow me anywhere podcasts are found and rate and review the show. Take 30 seconds, give me 5 stars. Nice comments are always appreciated. And follow me on Instagram at Before the Lights Podcast. Until next time, everybody, thank you for listening to Before the Lights. I'm Tommy Canale. A salute. A chin chin.